Common Bengals W. Hopefully, we're talking about a common Bengals W next Thursday night, next Friday night, next Saturday night, and all through 2024. What's up, you guys? It's Sean Ross Sapp, host of Common Bengals W. Not in my usual Bengals studio over here to my left, because today we are doing mock drafts. I have to be able to navigate a little bit easier, and that setup isn't quite as smooth for that, but we're going to be doing a whole bunch of mock drafts, and I mean a whole bunch. And I do a whole bunch of mock drafts. So let's go ahead, talk, and sort of set the stage. We've got several that we're going to work with. Pro Football Network is the one I use the most. Now, listen, this is just for fun. This is just me passing the time, giving you guys some content, hanging out, doing some stuff that isn't pro wrestling during this heavy pro wrestling period. So listen, we got some people in the chat. Aaron Gilbert saying Steelers fan here. See what the division is doing. Hey, we welcome you. So many drafts. Hell yeah, brother. Will McLean says, not a Bengals fan, but love the whole draft process. Done too many mock drafts for myself. Buddy, me too. This will be my second year as a Bengals season ticket holder, and that's not something I ever thought that I'd be able to afford, anything like that. But I'm very happy about it because it gives me my Sundays off. It forces a day off in that sense. But I'm going to the Bengals draft party next Thursday as a season ticket holder. I thought about just hanging around in town because WWE does their draft Friday in Cincinnati. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of content is there. Speaking of WWE stuff, longtime friend Jeff Hawkins says, move up for Brock, you coward. Can't watch live, but the point stands. So I'm going to do some of these where I do accept some draft trades or try to make some trades up or whatever that may be. And then there's going to be some that I do where I don't utilize those at all because, man, listen, you can really rake them over the coals with some of these trades that are offered here, especially with what the Bengals are after. I think the first two rounds, ideally, are offensive tackle, defensive tackle. If there is a too good to be true player on the board, though, that could change. Do I think that T. Higgins is on the team come week one? I do. And my good friend Drew, I've went to many games with, says, real question, are you trading T? If somebody offered a 1 or a 2 for him, I would probably do that. I would probably take the trade. But I don't see that happening, especially with this is a wide receiver heavy draft. So let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into this. And by the way, guys, we don't do super chats, humper chats over here. Just send a chat. We're good to go. Let's see how things rock here. We're going to do this one without trades. Because, see, initially, if I sit there and I see Fatanu and Mims right there on the board, you know what? This is a too good to be true situation. We will do trades here. Because, like, going back to 20, when you've got Murphy, Newton, Mims, Fatanu on the board right there, and then moving up like 29 picks, that's pretty nice. Yeah, and that Steelers one appears to be the best offer, even though, that one is just like load yourself up on picks. If it's an offensive tackle, the offensive tackle does not need to be like first year ready. And I would still go offensive tackle here. I really would, because but you're giving your rival the player they need. They were going to get that player anyway. They're going to get that player anyway. And we get to move up like 28 spots. Yeah, if they're dumb enough to do that, we'll do that. And we'll take Fatanu there. So here's another one that I look at, and I'm like, damn, that would be moving up an awful lot. To move back slightly and see, Rook Ororo already went 46. So that would have been my pick there. So, and we've got a pick 2 after this one anyway. I would have to accept that as well. And I would pass on these. Well, I don't know. Get a third next year and 50. See, this is what I mean. When I say that you can just rake people over the coals with these things, this is insane. This is unreal. And I would probably reject that because I think here you go Michael Hall Jr. with all that athleticism. And at the same time, yes, I would take that as well. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Do you want a tight end or do you want a wide receiver? I think Mike Gesicki is going to work in the slot a lot more than he is the actual tight end position. Drew Sample did very well. Tanner Hudson did very well. But if you can get a guy like Ben Sinnott, who is very, very athletic, he's 6'3", I think you go with that. Malachi Corley is a guy I've also had my eye on, even though he's a little small, 5'11". I would personally go, oh man, Roman Wilson's down there too. He's small as well. I would probably go with Ben Sinnott here, though. And then in round 3, you can load up on some depth and weapons and things like that. Wouldn't take that one. So you got a few people here, especially that I think would fit really well. Christian Mahogany, because let's see, I mean, Cordell Volson, if you can upgrade from Cordell Volson and Christian Mahogany can compete with him, I think that would be very, very useful. Russ is not going to cook. We're not worried about the Steelers. If Miami drafts a corner in the first round, I'm going to be pissed. Same. Should be more worried about Field seeing playing time. An offensive tackle to keep that pocket of life would be great for the Bengals. Yeah, and I mean, listen, I know they got their guy there. I know that they got Trent Brown, and that's nice. But what happens if he gets hurt or isn't quite motivated? All that stuff. You don't want to rock with like Jackson Carman or somebody like that. Now here, I look and I'm like, okay, what's more likely to be on the board at 90 or 97? I like Jalen McMillan here. He's a little bit bigger than some of the guys in the second round, and I think with Joe Burrow would be a good pick. Christian Mahogany as competition for Cordell Volson would be awfully nice, and I think that you should probably get a little bit younger and cheaper on the offensive line in general. And look, T'Vondre Sweat dropped so much as a result of that DWI. I would have to go Jalen McMillan here. And I would completely reject that trade. Now, here it is tempting to go T'Vondre Sweat because I don't see I think that he would be more of a maybe he works out next year type of thing. Will Shipley at this point as a running back would be, oh man, that'd be tough to pass on too. Because the running, well, first off, a return man is going to be way more important now than it's been in years. But I look at who the Bengals have, and I think that they believe Chase Brown, Zach Moss will sort of share those carries. But at this point, I would take Will Shipley right there just to do it. Just for the hoot. Oh my gosh. Okay, so listen. There's no way I could pass on T'Vondre Sweat at this point in round 4 when it looked like he was going round 2 at some point. Bengals have a good history of rehabbing some people like that. Man, traded away some of those mid-round picks. The Bengals had so many picks that I didn't mind trading them away. And here, I think they would probably go corner or linebacker. So I would see DeCamry and Richardson. Man, that'd be good. He's got good size on him for a corner as well. But I think they would probably go linebacker here. And the last pick, I actually think that they would consider drafting a punter to compete with Brad Robbins, who was just miserable. Just miserable. So in this mock draft in which I did, we traded back but also traded back into the second round again. So while we gave up, I think it was 18, 19, whatever it was, we got an extra pick in the second round that filled the offensive tackle role there that Trent Brown will vacate at the end of the year. Michael Hall Jr., I think, could step in and play immediately. Ben Sinnett is going to be a guy that could be a long-term starting tight end that gets a lot of touches, because this year the Bengals discovered they were allowed to throw to tight ends. It's so wild. Jalen McMillan is a guy, like, if Yoshivas doesn't necessarily take off or anything like that, could step in there. I don't think that Irwin is the long-term solution there, even though he has always stepped up. And it's very clear that we're losing T. Higgins. Like, he ain't going to be there after this year. I would be shocked. Will Shipley to compete with for the running back role. But, I mean, I think that is Chase Brown's to lose. And he and Zach Moss are going to share an awful lot. Devondre Sweat is one where you got to get a little bit younger on the defensive line. And he is low risk, high reward when you're talking about your sixth pick there. The linebacker position also is one where I think they need to get a little bit of depth. Probably the corner position as well, but I would like for them to get a veteran corner. And then you got a punter there. And then for next year, you've traded up and you've got 2 third-round picks, which the Bengals, they succeed pretty well on third-rounders at the top 3 rounds at least. After that, it gets a little bit hairy. So now we're going to do this, and we're going to do it without any trades. No trades whatsoever. But I think D-line, O-line are the important ones to go after here. So right here, there's a lot of very appealing options. And look at Brock Bowers up at 10. Like, if Brock Bowers is there at 18, it's hard for me to say don't take him, because I've seen what not only Joe Burrow, but what Jake Browning can do with a fantastic corner. I think right here, it doesn't look that much different than if you trade down to 20. You've got a couple of good options. I don't think they'll take Jared Verse here if he falls. I think where the Bengals land in this draft is they probably take J.C. Latham, Fuaga, Mims, or Fatanu. Now, if it gets to a situation where they end up having, like, if it's Tyler Guyton is the next on the board, I don't like that in the middle of the first round. I would rather them go Johnny Newton there. So what we're going to do for the sake of this round, we're going to take the offensive tackle that I want. The next round, we're going to target a defensive tackle. Or the next draft, we're going to target a defensive tackle. They might get a corner in the third or fourth, could take 2. They definitely need secondary help, even though the safety room is in a lot better. Holy shit. Now, see, look at this. Look at this. If this happens, boy, am I excited. If Johnny Newton ends up there, well, yeah, hell yeah. That's best case scenario. Thanks for the division title. We really appreciate it. So now here we are in the third round, and I think this is prime wide receiver, tight end territory for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they would take a running back here unless they ended up trading up. I think they're pretty happy with what Chase Brown has shown. But also, I constantly think that Christian Mahogany should be in that conversation if it's right here, because the offensive line has got to get less expensive. And Cordell Volson isn't expensive, but they also need to upgrade there. However, I think Jalen McMillan would be a really, really good one. A lot of mine end up looking the same. Jatavion Sanders is a tight end that I'm interested in. Now, at least at this point for 80, depending on who you get in the first or second round, Roger Rosengarten on this draft is an offensive tackle that I think could be that guy. If you had to wait until the third round, I certainly think he could be one of those guys. We're going to go Jalen McMillan and hope there's a tight end right here. And there he is. My God. Jatavion Sanders just fell right there. My God. Okay. Now, if you're If you're sitting here in round 4 and Blake Fisher is still there, that's another guy based on size alone and some of the things I've seen where I look at him and I go, okay, he could be a guy that fills in very, very nicely in that spot. So listen, I would have to go ahead and take Blake Fisher here. And then you could maybe mess around with him at guard or something like that. Probably Jalen Wright at this position, if he's available this late into round 5. And then there will be some flyers and some depth stuff here in the 6th and 7th. So I think right here is where they might look at a corner or a linebacker. And we'll say corner. I would like a bigger one, but it also depends on where they are on the on here. Because like Nehemiah Pritchett will be available later on. Yeah, I look at that and I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be still. I'm interested to like who is your team in the chat? Who is your team, and who do you think they're specifically targeting, and why, or what position? Not who, what position? Because it's a lot about who's available at that particular period. Oh yeah, this guy. Listen, if the Bengals can get this fella of whom's name I cannot pronounce, Ulo Fushio, in round 6, I would be all for that. Now, round 7, since they had one defensive tackle, I could see them going with another. And I always pick a punter with the last one with how bad the Bengals punter was. I mean, he was so bad. Connor says Bengals QB. Damon says Dolphins O-line, D-line. See, that's where we are too, Damon. The trenches got to get better. The Bengals allowed the run way too easily last year. Way too easily. So, yeah, I would really love this draft. If the Bengals got 2 really good offensive tackle prospects there, they got Johnny Newton. If he fell to 49, sorry about the asthma. If he fell to 49, I would probably shit my pants, brother. Jatavion Sanders and Jalen McMillan in round 3 as those offensive weapons. And then you take some high upside guys round 5 and 6. Now we're going to do this, and we're going to specifically get a defensive tackle round 1. Because I feel like that's important, because you just never know with these. But I've done these damn drafts so much that I kind of know. And also no trades here. God, and of course, this is one where 3 offensive tackles are on the board. Now, if this is the situation, the Bengals are not going to take a defensive tackle here, I don't think. I don't think they'll reach for Byron Murphy here when you've got 3 great offensive tackles. But I also think Byron Murphy can come in and play immediately. Reject those trades. Now, this is what happens here. In round 2, you've got Patrick Paul right there, who is a big son of a gun. Very, very athletic as well. And besides Patrick Paul, you don't need a defensive tackle at this point. Could you feel comfortable with Trent Brown? And Tim says you're drafting too logically. The Bengals are just going to draft nothing but offensive guard. If the Bengals were able to get Cooper Beebe here, I wouldn't hate it. But Patrick Paul seems like the most logical here. And then after that, you don't have an offensive tackle until Roger Rosengarten, which Roger Rosengarten in round 3 at like 86 or so, I'd feel pretty good about that. I'd feel good about him or Blake Fisher. I feel good about all those guys. I don't think they're as good as the first round guys, of course, but and then you got Jalen Polk. They could go wide receiver here and just continue to put weapons around. Oh man, I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say I feel like they would in this situation. If Troy Franklin was there, they'd probably go with him, and then they would see who is there in round 3. Now let's look on the offensive line. If we're going to aim for Blake Fisher at 97, that's what we're going to do. We're going to aim for him at 97. So as a result, my God, Michael Hall's still there. Damn. If Michael Hall's available round 3, I would have to take him. But we're talking about filling positions of need. I'll go with Ben Sinnott right here. And reject these bad boys. And Michael Hall's still there. Oh, my God. Meanwhile, Blake Fisher's still there. There's quite a few. I don't think Blake Fisher would fall to 10 or to 115, but also if this fella is there at that stage, I would probably have to go with him. Listen, if Michael Hall would have fallen this far, there's no way I could pass on him. I'm going to have to take the risk and probably regret it. And T'Vondre Sweat, too. My God. And look at that. It worked out because Blake Fisher is sitting right there at 115. Blake Fisher in the 4th round on this one. Hell yeah. Probably go Jalen Wright here, being available that late. See, this one, I'd be pretty happy with all this. Okay, I wouldn't mind a center here as well because of Karras and just a little competition, a little bit of depth. This is probably my favorite one yet. Probably go guard or what corners are available. Yeah. So we're going to try a different simulator here shortly. Holker is not usually around in the 7th on these. That's surprising. Bengals like to double up on the receivers, and then, you take a punter there as well. So I would be very happy with this. You would get a starting defensive tackle, a starting wide receiver, a guy who come and compete for the starting tight end spot. Michael Hall at that stage, listen, you have set the defensive tackle position for the next few years and gotten younger and cheaper there. Blake Fisher, even though I don't feel as good about him as obviously the first rounders, he's a guy that I think could come in and play the right tackle position midway through the year or next year, and I'd feel good about that. Then, of course, you get depth at running back, center, cornerback, although I would like them to get a veteran, wide receiver, and punter. So, what we got here? Bam. Okay, let's try another one that we got here. We'll do the ESPN simulator. How the hell do I go to that thing? There we go. So we will go all 7 rounds. We will go light speed. Cincinnati Bengals load draft. I have not done many on these. On your next one, can you show who Miami drafts in the 1st round, please? Yeah. Sorry about that. So my pick. Okay, cool. Here, gosh. So these are so much different as to who would even be available. But Fatanu would probably be the one that I would pick. And who did the Dolphins pick? Oh, they're up after me. Probably take Fatanu there. Yeah, Jason says didn't realize they had one on ESPN. They just launched it fairly recently. The Dolphins went with Byron Murphy. Man, and that's a guy that I would have felt good with the Bengals getting as well. Not doing trades on this one. So listen, if Jordan Morgan was available at 49, I would be happy with not taking an offensive tackle in the first round, but it's hard to say. Brandon Dorless, I think they go offensive tackle, defensive tackle the first 2 rounds. But if Ricky Pearsall is there, I go with him. And okay, here's the same fellow that was available in round 2 as a defensive tackle. And Mekhi Wingo's still there too. If these guys really fall to like round 3, that'd be great. If the Bengals could get a starting level defensive tackle or offensive tackle round 3 and sneak a wide receiver or a tight end in there, that'd be awfully nice. So now we're in a position where tight end would be good here, but it would be a reach for a tight end here as well. But defensive tackle, offensive tackle, and wide receiver would be filled. You wouldn't draft Cole Bishop. The safety room is full. They have, it looks like they're positioning themselves to get another linebacker. And Cedric Gray right here would be a steal. And then in round 4, round 4, I think this is where maybe you grab a tight end. Listen, I wouldn't hate Ray Davis. Watching him at Kentucky was just unreal. But I'd probably go with Tanner here. Man, it's such a categorical difference from ESPN to Pro Football Network. Like, I feel like I can do Pro Football Networks in my sleep at this point. I know who's going to be there every single time. What's up, you guy? Or Frantic says, what's up, Sean in chat? You think Cincinnati Bengals will get some good players? Will they make it to the Super Bowl next year? Brother, I hope so. I hope so. I think they're going to try to work on the trenches. They don't have to have a starter in offensive tackle this year, but I think they should draft a starting level offensive tackle. You got to get cheaper on the offensive line and younger. Here, man, inside that. God, I'd hate to go right back to inside linebacker there, but like, how is he still available? How is Curtis Jacobs still there? At the same time, the Bengals love to double up on wide receiver. And I think they could do that here. Especially considering that the return man is going to be a very, very important role this year. It'd be hard to pass on Caden Wallace there as well. But I would go Miles Cole just to switch things up. I'm going to do one with trades momentarily as well. I would go with a center guard for some depth there. There's still, again, who popped up in the other draft around this time. I think he could end up going there. And then probably rock with the punter, the last one. So let's take a look at this ESPN draft. It'd be number 1 offensive tackle. They would sneak a wide receiver in there. And then based on his ranking, man, getting him down at 80, Dorless as a defensive tackle, I think would be pretty good. And then you fill, like, listen, they spend a lot of money on defense, and the defense wasn't getting it done last year. And Cedric Gray falling that far would be another one that fell really, really far. Tanner, however, that feels like an almost immediate need. McLaughlin there. Jamari Thrash is one that could come in and probably probably compete for the return role. Miles Cole, Cedric, still all for depth. Let's draft a defensive tackle in this one. Actually, I don't know if they can even do trades on this one. But I want to draft a defensive tackle first round on the ESPN one, just to kind of see who else is there throughout this process. Jersey on Newton. Okay. Latu being there. Damn. And Cooper DeJean. If they draft a cornerback first round, I'm going to split my head open. Okay, we took him. I'll scroll back up and check the Dolphins again. Dolphins take Amarius Mims in that situation. He's a very good prospect. Continue draft. Okay, well, you know what? Jordan Morgan being available right there makes things very, very easy if you take a defensive tackle first round. Hell yes. I think Jordan Morgan is first round good. Man, and Tavondre Sweat being available in the third. But at this point, if Troy Franklin is available there, it is not even a question. You take Troy Franklin. Man, so for those of you who don't know, the Bengals ended up getting an extra third round pick because they had misassigned a comp pick as a sixth round. And I don't know who it was for, maybe Bates or somebody like that. But as a result, the Bengals end up with a second, third round pick. That is massive for the Bengals. And I mean massive for the Bengals. Yeah, I look at this and I go, you know what? Tight end is a position of need, but that's a fourth round thing. If you're looking at who's available here, I don't think third round they're going to pull a running back when they got Moss and Brown. We had just got a wide receiver. So I think defensive end or linebacker is a real possibility, even though, man, you got Murphy as well, just waiting in the wings. Probably go with a linebacker there. You know, I would probably try to set up the trenches accordingly because, you know, who knows what happens to BJ Hill. I would probably go with Wingo there if he was available. And here is where I think you take a tight end because you're not picking again for a little bit here after the fourth round. Safety is pretty well out of the question. But if Curtis Jacobs is there, probably take him at linebacker too. Yeah. If he's there, I don't know how the Bengals would pass on that. Bengals love getting those steals and love to get high upside people. Take DK. I like DK and Richardson. So he was falling in so many of these drafts that I watched some of his stuff and I was like, he's got good size. He's very athletic. I think that he would be a good one. I think he'd be a good corner. Ooh, man. If Caden Wallace is available in round 7 at 224, well, yeah, I'll take him. My God, how are some of these guys still on here? I'd be shocked if like either of these top 3 were undrafted. And we'll take a running back. So Bengals would have gotten their defensive tackle that will start in Jersey on Newton. Jordan Morgan, who could, provide depth and start next year right there. Troy Franklin would come in and get an awful lot of catches in his first year. Mekhi Wingo would be one that if he fell, well, that's very, very helpful for next year when, you know, they're like, okay, what's the deal with Sheldon Rankins? He's a little bit older. Let's go ahead and get younger there. And sorry for the hiccups there. That's the benefit of having this extra third round pick, man, because if you're drafting somebody in the first 3 rounds, you're expecting them to start within the next couple years. Ideally, it'd be very quickly, but the Bengals don't generally operate that way. They draft ahead. But also, you get some depth at linebacker there for people who fell way, way too far. You get some size and athleticism at corner, which I think is very, very important. You take an offensive tackle that just fell way too far, and Rashim Ali as well. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I don't know if I'll do any of these next week. Not sure how I'll feel about that, but I definitely will be streaming throughout next weekend, talking about the NFL draft. get to go to the draft party. I'm very excited about that. Season ticket holder, upgraded my tickets. Sorry, my nose itches a little bit. Upgraded my season tickets, and in the little club section now, just barely snuck in there. But I get Sundays off in the fall. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. Let me know in the comments what you think. Share this video, thumbs up, all that good stuff. It's a hobby for me. I ain't living and dying off this thing. Just wanted to show you guys what I do in my free time, which isn't depressing at all. Until next time, guys, we're out.